Welcome back. The Me Too movement has brought forward the topic of sexual assault and harassment. And now we're getting a better idea about just how big of an issue it is at our state capitol. A report released this week shows that while most people who work at the state capitol say they feel safe, 30% say they have seen or experienced sexual harassment. Reporter Mark Stewart has more of these details.
No longer can people turn a blind eye.
In many ways, Representative Faith Winter has been the face of sexual harassment in Colorado. Along with other women, her story led to the expulsion of fellow lawmaker Steve Lebsock. She finds validation in the sexual harassment report.
The whole reason I came forward was never just about me. It was about our aides, our interns, our lobbyists, and really shining a light on this culture. And now the data backs me up. Among the findings, only 13% of cases were reported. There is concern about retaliation, and the reporting process needs to be professionalized, enhanced, also centralized.
Having a more judicious process about how to handle such complaints, having third parties do it.
Despite division in the past, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle seem optimistic substantive changes can occur.
It's not totally possible, but as much as possible that we can actually take the politics out of the policy.
The biggest challenge is going to be, one, changing culture is hard. We can change laws in 3 days here. That's how long it takes to pass a law. But changing culture actually takes time. It takes hearts and minds. It takes awareness. It takes training. It takes education. But we're on the first step to doing that.
Well, joining us now to talk about that and all things legislative is Marianne Goodland. She's the chief State House reporter for ColoradoPolitics.com. You have been covering the state legislature for decades, we can safely say. Is there a culture of harassment there? I mean, 30% is a pretty significant number.
And it's an accurate number. Yes, there is a culture of harassment, and I think the report brought up where the real problem lies, and it has to do with power. It is legislators and lobbyists who are the worst offenders, according to this study, and their number one targets are aides and interns, the people with the least amount of power in the entire building. So I think they accurately reflected it. And the thing that struck me, the comment that was made by the woman from Investigations Law Group, which conducted the study, was that no workplace in America would ever consider what goes on at the Capitol to be reflective of a healthy culture.
Wow. 200 pages, that must mean there are some significant changes that need to be made. So what might we see? What do you think is doable within those recommendations?
The woman who did the presentation, Ms. Rita, had said that these were doable. They're bold suggestions, but she also believed that the legislature is perfectly capable of implementing these ideas. Chief among them was that, and as Mark reported, there are 16 different people that take harassment complaints at the Capitol, which is a little ridiculous. There needs to be one centralized place to go when you want to file a complaint. Right. The other one was to create sort of a neutral third-party office at the Capitol. She referred to it, I think, as an office of workplace culture, and that would contain a staff of 4 people who would all have different segments of these issues to work through. Bold suggestions, yeah. Implementable, absolutely.
Let's talk about Randy Baumgardner this week. That his political future came up for a vote this week, and he's keeping his job.
He's going to keep his job, and that really was not something, that vote was no surprise. It was a 17-17 vote. You had one Republican, Ray Scott of Grand Junction, who voted to expel, but it's viewed as a political reason, not because he thought that the allegation, and he hasn't actually spoken about it, but he's in a primary in Grand Junction that has some concerns about how tight a race that's going to be, and the person that he's running against is a member of the House who voted to expel Steve Lebsock. So you take that discussion out by voting to expel Randy Baumgardner on the Senate side. Senator Beth Martinez-Humenick also voted not to expel, which also has some interesting political implications, since she is running against Faith Winter, who was in that previous segment. And so that's going to make for a very interesting contest in the fall.
So we will watch those races. With less than a minute, let's talk about the budget for a moment, because this too is complicated.
Very complicated. Lawmakers really had the dollar signs in their eyes in a way that I haven't seen in a long time, because we haven't had a budget surplus. And we had a $1.3 billion budget surplus for them to work with, and they spent it, and they overspent it a little bit. They had put $495 million of that into transportation, another $150 million into K-12. But when everything finished up on Thursday, the Senate spent more than they had available. So, and the House did the same a week ago. So when the Joint Budget Committee starts meeting on Monday to come up with a compromise, it's going to be interesting to see what they have to get rid of in order to get back to a balanced budget.
And they have until Friday to get this done?
They have until the following Friday, and they want to, it's not a hard deadline. If they needed more time, they could certainly get it. But it then gives them a little bit less time to look at a governor's veto, should he be considering one.
So what do you think might be slashed then, given this overspending?
The real big one is a $35 million amendment that deals with school safety. That passed in the House with bipartisan support,
right.
Very strong bipartisan support, and in the Senate, that was a purely party line issue. The Democrats did not support it. So it'll be an interesting question whether that stays on. There was another amendment that also got some bipartisan support dealing with the issue of payment for staff at the Colorado Mental Health Institute
right.
of Pueblo. A couple of other things that lawmakers all seem to favor in both chambers, but they don't actually have the money for it. So
we'll see what the wheeling and dealing happenings will be coming up. Marianne Goodland, thank you so much from coloradopolitics.com. By the way, if you ever have a question or a segment idea for us, you can tweet us at Denver7Politics, and you can always watch today's segments anytime at thedenverchannel.com/politicsunplugged. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you back here next Sunday. We'll be here for another edition of Politics Unplugged.